me, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm a graphic and brand designer, creative director, and all-around 360 creative. Welcome in. Today I want to tell you guys all about my client process, starting from first how to get clients all the way to execution and offboarding. But before we get into the video, make sure to like and most importantly subscribe to join the homies, and also feel free to go ahead and follow me on Instagram as well. So firstly, I want to touch on how to even begin to get clients. This is one of my most common questions: how to get clients, do you have tips for getting clients, all of the things. So for one, I always swear by social media. Social media has connected me with so many of my clients, okay? Most of my network is from social media alone. I do go out to events and, promote myself physically in the real world, but I would say like 90% of everything comes from social media. With that being said, I would heavily recommend putting yourself out there and developing an online brand presence for you and for your business, so you can show things like your client process, your ideation, how do you come up with these creative ideas, how do you solve problems, and just show your creativity all around, okay? Even if it's just like time lapses of your design process or you breaking down your final designs, anything like that, I would recommend doing that. Or even just posting your designs to begin with. However, I do want to let you know that posting on social media alone is not enough. Let's talk about it. For the first few years where I was like freelancing very heavily, I only relied on social media and I worked through the DMs. So you can hit me up for cover art or for any graphic design needs, and that's kind of how it went. It was all through Instagram DMs. I don't recommend doing that. I don't, because you're not able to keep track of your clients very well, for one, and it's just it's not professional at all. So it's not. So if you're doing that, I would suggest to level up, go ahead and make that upgrade, create some type of formal website experience. So whether that is a portfolio or a landing page for your clients or a full website, I would recommend seeking that out and building that out for yourself. I personally use Squarespace for my website / portfolio because it's all in one place, but I use Squarespace. Wix is also really good. Framer is really good. ReadyMag is also really good. Just to name a few off the top of my head. I recommend all of those for websites and for portfolios. They have free versions and they also have paid templates that you can purchase and just incorporate into your site as well. But establishing a website and an online portfolio outside of social media not only does it make you look more professional, but it also just gives your clients a space to see everything all in one area. With having a website, you're able to actually break down each project, explain what problems you solve, all of these things. You can showcase your work, your prices, past projects, your process, anything like that, okay? You also want to have a solid point of contact. So what do I mean by that? I mean some place where your clients can go to submit an inquiry. We're not doing the DMs anymore, all right? I want you to incorporate some type of contact page on this website or your portfolio page, okay? In this, you can have a simple contact form, whether that's like name, email, and what you need. For starters, that's a very simple way, very straightforward kind of solution to get clients in. However, I personally go in more detail because I like to know a lot of details before accepting a client, just to vet out what I want to work with and who I don't want to work with. So for example, this is what my contact form looks like. As you can see, I'm asking pretty detailed questions like what packages they're interested in, how did they hear about me, overall explaining what you're looking for, what's your budget, what's your timeline, when you want to get started, things like that. And all of this just helps me get a clear understanding of how I can help you before even like reaching out to you myself. All right, moving on, portfolio. So I did touch a little bit on your portfolio already, but I do want to give you guys some tips and advice on how to have a good, well laid out portfolio as well. So some things that make a great portfolio: for one, you want to clearly communicate what it is you do, what kind of design you do, or what problem you're trying to solve. So in your hero statement, whatever, that first thing that pops up when you open your website or portfolio, make it clear. So my tagline is, I create bold visuals for even bolder dreamers. Something along those lines. I forget what to say, honestly. I made it very clear that I'm a brand designer and that's what I'm going to help you do. Not only that, but I have a very clear call to action that says, let's work or let's get started, something like that. So they can automatically see, first and foremost, this is what she does and this is how I can get in contact with her. But in your portfolio, you also want to incorporate work that you're actually proud of, not just anything, okay? So I want you to incorporate things that really showcase your creativity and your ability to solve problems, most importantly. Also, showcase your personality and customize everything to your branding. If you don't have your own branding in place, I would recommend you figure it out. So establish, you know, how you want to sound, how you want to present yourself, your brand colors, your brand fonts, etc., etc. One of the most important things though in your portfolio is obviously the work. So to portray your work, don't just put up a gallery of images. No, babe, let's go a step further. Let's actually create a page for each project. In each project, you should have a case study. So explain, like I said before, explain what the project objectives were, explain the deliverables of the project, so everything that you aimed to execute within this project. Just tell the story about the execution phase in itself and how you were able to ultimately solve whatever problem your client was having. And I'll make sure to include my portfolio specifically down in the link below so you can check it out and see what I'm talking about. And I would say showcase like maybe 4 to 6 of your strongest pieces of work, and then just have some miscellaneous work in there as well. So any like passion projects or things that you make for fun, concept arts, anything like that. So they can really see like your range of creativity outside of client work. And also with that being said, your portfolio does not have to be full of client work, okay? Like my first 4-figure clients came to me with fake work in my portfolio, for real. Like you can make passion projects and put that in your portfolio too. Not everything has to be real client work, especially if you're just beginning. So with that being said, I would recommend checking out different design brief platforms. Here are a few. And they're really nice just to get some practice in and to work with like fake clients essentially. And you still get to create something beautiful. So yeah, so do that and then put it in your portfolio. Tell the story behind it. You can make it up. It can be fiction. It doesn't matter. You really just want to showcase that you are capable of being creative and solving problems. Okay, next I want to talk about consultation calls. So after somebody submits an inquiry to me, it will come to my email and I'll follow up asking them to schedule a consultation call with me, and I'll send them a direct link to my scheduling platform, which I personally use Calendly. Acuity is also a good alternative, but I use Calendly and it integrates with your Google Calendar as well. I personally charge for consultations. I do recommend that you do the same, just so that you feel like you're not wasting your own time talking to people for 30 minutes to an hour and then they don't follow through with you or anything like that, okay? Not only that, I feel like charging for consultations kind of weeds out the unserious clients. So for me, I charge $50 for a consultation. Best believe if I pay $50 for a consultation, 1, I'm showing up to that consultation on time. 2, I am seriously wanting to work with you and I'm ready to actually get started. I feel like when I was doing free consultations, because I did try that as well, I feel like a lot of people were not serious. They kind of like just bullshitted, to be honest. Like they'll come in not even really knowing what they want, not even knowing where to start, and then they're not even really serious about getting started on top of that. To weed all of that out, I started charging for consultations because I felt like I was literally wasting my time. So I do recommend doing that. And it doesn't have to be $50. It can be $10, $15, whatever you're comfortable with charging. But I personally, I do the consultations, and in my consultation I'm also getting a very thorough understanding of their brand and kind of sort of doing like a mini brand audit as well. So I charge what I feel like my consultations are worth, and I also send out customized proposals before getting a type of deposit at all. So that little $50, it goes towards the time I'm spending towards creating a proposal as well as the time I'm actually spending in the call. I hope that makes sense. But the second point I want to make regarding consultations is that you want to lead the call. You don't want to have your client leading the call for you. So by that, I mean, just simply like start by kind of establishing your dominance in a way. I don't know. I feel like some clients, they will walk all over you if you don't have a structure to your consultations to begin with. So for me, I like to start by introducing myself, telling them about my business, how long I've been designing, and why I'm passionate about this, just to, break the ice a little bit. And then I ask them about themselves. And then once we get like introductions out the way, I always start by asking questions. Tell me about your business. What problems have you been facing? What are you looking for? Things like that. If you guys want a more detailed video on consultation calls, period, I will do that as well. But you always want to make sure that you are the one that's guiding the conversation, okay? Once I get done with collecting the information that I need, I start to give them the information that they're looking for. So my client process, my individual packages, what they all include, all the deliverables, and everything like that. Then I also let them know generally what the process will look like if we do move forward, and also give them an idea of what it would look like to work with. So you want to tell them how to be officially onboarded, which is usually, sending a deposit and then signing over a contract as well. And I also let them know the general stages of the project. So for example, brand strategy, creative direction, designing the drafts, revisions, and then finally offboarding. That's like a general timeline of all my projects. And I also let them know any important deadlines or checkpoints or any time that we'll be meeting throughout the process. So I typically have a checkpoint for each of those stages that I just mentioned. So one for the creative direction and strategy meeting, one where I actually present the drafts during revisions if there's anything like that, and then also an offboarding call where I go over like their brand guidelines or how to use any assets, things like that. All right, next we're moving into strategy and creative direction. So after they've onboarded and they've sent over their invoice and the contract for the project, that's when I officially get to moving things along in the process. So usually my first step is strategy and creative direction, and this is pretty much what that looks like. I go through a guided presentation with them where I break down brand values, their brand pillars, messaging, tone of voice, all of these things. And in this phase, I'm also presenting the creative direction, so maybe like 1 to 2 mood boards depending on how the ideation went in this stage. And in this stage, I'm also explaining why I chose this direction, what type of fonts I'm looking at, what type of textures I'm looking at, photography direction, things like that. And also color combinations and just the overall vibe that I want to go for as we execute this project. And I make sure to do the creative direction stage before I even start designing, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So now moving on to actually designing the drafts. First, you want to make sure that you have all the necessary copy. If they have any logos or specific wording, anything like that that they want on the graphic design, make sure you have all of those things first. But at this point, I have a pretty clear understanding of the direction that I'll move in. Like I said, we've already established the creative direction, so I'm good to go ahead and start creating things. Here, I typically design 1 to 2 different concepts depending on my level of confidence in each of them. If I'm really confident in singular design, then I'll present the one design. But if I love 2 different concepts and I can't choose between them, that's their job to choose. But with that being said, never present too many concepts because decision fatigue is a real thing. And clients, you don't want to overwhelm your clients. So I personally stick to 1 to 2 concepts. But once I finish the drafts of whatever I was working on, I put it together in a presentation, set up a meeting with them, and then present everything to them. So in the presentation, before I actually show them the work, I like to reiterate the project's objectives and cover things like the brand messaging, the creative direction, and anything that was valuable from the strategy phase, just so they can like keep in mind like the goal of the design, if that makes sense. Like it's not just something pretty, it's actually functional, and I need you to remember these things before I present it to you, if that makes sense. And then once I actually get to presenting the designs, I like to break down my thought process. So why I chose this font, why I chose these colors, why I chose these textures, like how do these things tie into the overall objective of the project? Like if your brand is a friendly brand, how does this font give friendly vibes? You know, how do these colors portray warmth or depth or anything like that? So everything has a meaning. If you can't make sense of it, you probably shouldn't include it in the design. Break down these little details because they do matter, and that'll help win your client over as well. Here's an example of what my presentations look like for a logo and brand identity client. As you can see, I'm breaking down everything and breaking down my thought process and key points, key visual aspects of the logo itself. All right, next we have the feedback and revision stage, a designer's favorite stage, right? For starters, you always want to make sure that you are giving your clients guidance when it comes to asking for feedback. So don't just send it over to them and ask them what they think. No, I want you to ask specific questions like, what's your first impression? Do you feel like this resonates with your target audience? Do you think that everything works well together? Do you think it aligns with your messaging? Do you think it aligns with your business goals? Things like that, you know, because you actually want them to think about the impact, not just if it's a pretty design or not. Because the last thing you want them to do is just say, I don't know, make it pop, or not give anything constructive, you know? A lot of the times I feel like clients really don't know how to communicate what they're actually feeling when they see something, and they may not know exactly why they do or don't like it. So you want to be very clear with the questions that you provide for feedback, just so you're on the same page. So again, ask impactful questions to kind of guide their thought process. Sometimes you literally have to hold their hand and walk them through it, and that's okay. That's okay. Also, you want to ensure that you're like covering all your bases in this stage. So you want to make sure you're asking about everything here and up front so that later they're not coming back with 1,000 other rounds of revisions. All right. Also, if you're like a people pleaser or anything like that, it's okay if they don't like it. don't get in your feelings, okay? Try to take criticism very objectively. It's not a diss at you. It's not a diss at your work. It just didn't align maybe with what they're going for or what they expected. And that's okay. We can always try again. But with that being said, limit the amount of revisions that are included, because again, clients will try to walk all over you if you let them. They will come back for endless revisions if you let them. Don't do that. Put a price tag on it and watch how they think it's pretty all of a sudden. Like, no bullshit. But I fully, heavily, tremendously encourage upcharging for additional revisions. I typically include 2 to 3 rounds of revisions. Anything more than that, it's an additional $80 to $100. Whatever, you know, because who's about to do all this extra work for free? Not me. You going to? You can. Like, I don't think you should, but you can if you want to, girl. Like, I don't care. That's your work. That's your business. It's not mine. But ultimately, I'm not trying to get my time wasted by doing free work, and they're not trying to waste their time by asking for endless revisions and being unsatisfied. So lastly, the final stage is offboarding. So once they are happy with the final project, you want to offboard your client. I recently started incorporating full offboarding packages, so another deck that just includes anything helpful for them to use these assets moving forward. So I start by saying thank you with a thank you message, move into file formats and just a directory on those, like what each type of file format means, so they can, you know, not move blindly. Not everybody knows what a PSD is. Not everybody knows what a PDF is, you know? So I just like to give them some guidance with that as well. Also show them where to get their fonts, what licensing they may need, etc., etc. And if it's a branding client, I'm also giving them brand guidelines that outlines how to use your brand moving forward, what to do, what not to do, etc. And I like to finish off my offboarding packet with an incentive for them to come back. So let me tell y'all, the best clients are the returning clients, all right? Once you have a loyal client, like, you're in there. Like, you're in there, okay? So give them reason to come back. So either give them like a discount on their next project or give them a discount for referring you to somebody else. For this, I like to give my client a discount, 15% off for the next project if they refer me to somebody else. And then that person that they referred also gets 15% off if they decide to work with me too. So all around, everybody's winning. We're all eating, period. And lastly, I also like to send them a link for feedback. So please tell me, like, what's tea? How did you enjoy this process? How happy are you with your final deliverables, etc.? Like, tell me what's going on. I need to know. I know I said that was the last thing, but there's also one more thing, and that's the follow-up, okay? So weeks after y'all have closed the project, remind your client, babe, I'm still thinking about you. Like, how have you been? How's everything been working out for you? Let me know. And is there anything else that I can help you with? A lot of times there is something else that they need help with now. Like, they need more graphics. So that's the perfect opportunity to get a new client. Anyways, that is my entire client process from beginning to end. Let me know if you guys have any specific questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them in the comments below. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to join the homies. Again, make sure to check out my Instagram and my TikTok. And as always, make something beautiful today so you can try to leave at least one more person inspired. Bye. Love you.